Hi, boys and girls. Mrs. Claus here. I'm so happy you could join us for story time today. I have a very special story to read to you. It's about a time where Santa was very sad because he thought that everyone had forgotten that the reason we celebrate Christmas is because of Jesus. It is Jesus' birthday on Christmas morning. And Santa overheard two women talking. So we're going to read about a very special place for Santa. And we're going to find out how God helps Santa realize that he helps to spread the Christmas spirit. Once upon a time, not very long ago, two women shoppers were talking, obviously very concerned. Buying Christmas gifts for family and friends is one thing, and I am glad to do it, but I'm afraid Santa Claus is taking over. He is causing many people to forget the real significance of Christmas. I agree. After all, it is Jesus' birthday, her friend responded. Now, Santa overhears a lot when he is out making his list of who's been naughty or nice, and much of what he hears goes in one ear and out the other. But this Christmas, he couldn't stop thinking about what the women had said. Even while helping the elves load his sleigh on Christmas Eve, those awful words rang in his ears. Could they possibly be right? As he went from house to house delivering toys, Santa couldn't stop worrying. Some people do forget Jesus on Christmas. Could it be his fault? Santa's last stop, as usual, was at a church that had a life-size nativity scene. Every year, Santa loved to be the first person to wish Jesus happy birthday, and he always brought a special present for the Christ child. But this year, Santa's footsteps were slow and heavy. He opened the door at the back of the church and crept into the very last pew. His feet refused to carry him forward to the crib where the figure of the infant Jesus lay. He hid his present under the pew. He had never felt so drained. A tear rolled down his cheek. Even though children had left him cookies and milk and many loving letters, he still couldn't remember when he had felt so sad or so alone. What's wrong? Giving presents was always such a joy before, Santa thought out loud. He sat back and closed his eyes when suddenly he heard a voice calling, "Santa, St. Nicholas!" Santa quickly wiped his eyes. He didn't want anyone to see him crying. He looked around the church. The voice sounded familiar, but there was no one in sight. "Cheer up. It's certainly not your fault that some people forget the significance of this day," the voice continued. "Ever since you were born in far off Turkey, only 300 years after my son Jesus was born, you've done far more than most to spread the true Christmas spirit." Santa could hardly believe his ears. God was actually talking to him, and his voice was warm and loving. He didn't sound angry at all. "Don't ever forget your long and distinguished career," God continued. "It all began when, at a very young age, you were named Bishop of Myra because of your many acts of charity." Santa smiled, suddenly remembering his colorful past. "Everyone called me Nicholas then," he recalled. "And that's when I first discovered how great it feels to help those in need." "You've always loved children," God reminded him. "Among many other good deeds, you were credited with rescuing some young boys and were named patron saint of children." "That's the title I treasure most of all," Santa admitted. "Well, don't tell that to the many sailors who pray to you for help when they are threatened with stormy seas or shipwreck. You are their patron saint as well." "And I am the patron saint of Russia, too," Santa added proudly. A big smile lit up his face. He certainly had led a busy and exciting life. "Churches in many cities are named after me. My feast day, St. Nicholas Day, is December 6th, a very special day for celebrations and gift giving in many parts of the world. You are known by many names as well, God reminded Santa. From the German, you are called Kris Kringle, which literally means Christ child. That's true, but my most popular name is Santa Claus, Santa interrupted. Some say it comes from the Dutch Sinterklaas, but I like to think it comes from the way small children say St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas, St. Nicholas, Santa Claus. Santa pulled thoughtfully on his beard and looked down at his bright red suit. Red had been his favorite color ever since he wore the red robes of a bishop, but he hadn't been so fat then. Actually, he has only had his round belly for a relatively short time. In 1823, when his friend Clement Moore wrote the famous poem The Night Before Christmas, it depicted Santa as having a round little belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. Soon, many people were drawing pictures of Santa. Jesus and I want to thank you for helping spread the news about Christmas to every corner of the world, God said softly. Every year you help millions of people, young and old, show how much they love one another. Because of you, people everywhere fill their hearts with joy and love on Jesus' special day. Thank you, God, Santa whispered. He felt better than he had for months. He has a very special job after all. Santa jumped up. Next year he would work even harder, filling hearts with love and joy so they would be ready for the Christ child on Christmas morning. He could hardly wait. The morning sun streamed through the stained glass windows of the church. It bathed the figure of the infant Jesus and Mary and Joseph in its bright, warm rays. Santa reached under the pew and pulled out the present he had brought for the Christ child. He knew he would have to hurry if he wanted to be the first person to wish Jesus happy birthday. He almost ran up the aisle, took off his hat, and knelt before the infant Jesus. He reverently placed his beautifully wrapped package next to the manger. It was the same present he had given Jesus every year, but now he knew for sure it was the one present Jesus wanted most of all. Inside the box were Santa's lists of the kind and loving things people, young and old, had done for one another during the year. Happy birthday, Santa whispered to Jesus, and please thank your Father for making a special place for me in his plan. I promise never to doubt his wisdom again. He smiled lovingly at the figure of the tiny infant. Now, no one who comes to church on Christmas and sees Santa kneeling there thinks it is strange at all. They can see that it is the perfect place for Santa Claus to be on Christmas. And some people, the legend says, even insist that the babe in the manger is smiling back at Santa. The end. I love reading this story because it helps us to remember that Jesus is the reason that we celebrate Christmas, and Santa helps to spread his message to everyone, his message of love and caring and understanding. I hope you enjoyed our story, and if you watch our other videos, you'll get to make a very yummy snack and make a very, very cool Christmas ornament. Well, thanks for joining me for story time. I love reading to you, and I hope to see you next year. Bye, everybody. Have a very Merry, Merry Christmas.